Chinese Communist Party built very deep roots, I think, in China. It's got extremely deep roots amongst the Chinese people. This is the most important. If you don't have deep roots, then you can't lead, because your roots are too shallow and too narrow. To achieve what the Chinese Communist Party has achieved and seeks to achieve in the future, basically you've got to be a microcosm of society. But not just a microcosm of society. You've also got to give leadership to the society. You've also got to be a dynamic agency for change in the society. The CPC has been remarkably successful in the transformation of China since the revolution, and especially since 1978 and the economic reforms, and the whole situation, not just of China, but of the Chinese people, has been transformed, and the status and the influence of China in the world has been transformed.
Subsequently, the WTO.
In China, somehow or other, the Chinese Communist Party has been able to constantly reinvent itself. Because if it doesn't change the Chinese Communist Party, then there's no way the Chinese Communist Party can provide any leadership in that situation, because it's static, it's frozen. So this is a very dialectical process of transformation between the economy, the society, the culture, and the Chinese Communist Party. My favorite example of this, really, is Deng Xiaoping, because, you know, he made two really dramatic changes to the thinking of the Chinese Communist Party from 1978. First, he introduced the idea that a socialist economy was not confined to government and the plan, but also required, necessitated a market. So something that had been excluded from thinking previously now became an integral part of it, and we all know that that has been hugely important. The other example I like is the idea that China should not develop in isolation. Now, this was a very challenging proposition, because China was so poor, China was utterly unable to compete with these economies, but it was also based on a deep sense of confidence. If you feel you have an inner confidence about the possibilities of your country and economy, you reach out to embrace the possibilities. And you say, okay, it's going to be tough, but we can do it. And that's exactly what happened. When it comes to governance and statecraft, I think the Chinese system is very superior to the Western system. Basically, the Western system is led by politicians, and the civil servants are supposed to do whatever the politicians tell them. The problem then is you have politicians who don't really know very much. The Communist Party has become extremely rigorous in seeking to promote people with real talent, skills, leadership qualities in whatever fields, and this of course reaches back into history, where with the meritocratic principle, which has been so important to the success of Chinese governance. And this has been a great strength of China. I think the Chinese Communist Party is so different. It's not just a question of policies, it's the way it conceives of its relationship with society, the way it conceives of its role. The Chinese Communist Party is the leader, the mentor, the architect of China. If the Chinese Communist Party gets stuck, if it ossifies, then it'll rapidly lose its influence in Chinese society. But for an extraordinarily long historical period, it's managed to maintain and strengthen and develop and broaden this role. That's what's extraordinary.